Ladies and gentlemen, now we will start our first Fireside Chat with the topic Early Generation, Blind Faith. And now I would like to invite our speakers for today. The first speakers for today is the CEO of Tokopedia, Mr. William Tanuwidjaja. Okay, and our second speaker for today is the CEO of Traveloka, Mr. Ferry Unardi. Please have your seat. And this session will be moderated by the co-founder of East Ventures, Mr. Willson Cuaca, and also Mr. Batara. Please join us on the stage, Mr. Batara.
So while we are digging our old files, we try to find all the old photos. It's very hard because during that time, we are not that self-conscious yet, like taking selfie and everything. But we actually found out two important, what do you call it, relic. The first one is Tokopedia deck that go long way before they raise the big fund. And also Ferry executive summary, the investment deck. I realized that actually we never read that executive summary. So we make an investment before that. Then now we realize that he wrote a lot of good stuff inside. Yeah. Do you mind to show William deck first? Okay, seems like we have some, yeah, they couldn't figure out. Okay, maybe we just start a simple question first. Yeah. So William, could you imagine that today Indonesia economy will be like what we've seen today?
I think it's a privilege, yeah. It's a great journey in the past. And by the way, congratulations for East Ventures 10 years anniversary. We just also 1.5 months ago, Tokopedia celebrated our 10 years anniversary. So 1 decade seems like a very long time, but it's also a very short time at the same time. Right? So today Tokopedia managed to contribute to 1% of Indonesia economy. But if like we think China today, on a top of 20 years anniversary, they contribute 6% of China economy. So yeah, I think that even this is a 10 years, this is just a new beginning for all of us.
I see. So let's look at this much performance reporting deck. Yeah, we run through a bit, yeah? So you know how it feels in the early days of the unicorn. Can you do next?
This is very embarrassing, Willson.
Huh? No, you shouldn't be. Yeah. Can I have the clicker? Okay, let's move to the next question to Ferry. Yeah. So Ferry, what do you think now the state of digital economy in Indonesia?
Yeah, we're definitely pleasantly surprised at how much progress can be made in 10 years, especially on the consumer side, and how much they are willing now to do many things on their phone and depend their lives on their phone. So I think it's a very positive milestone that it's been going on for 10 years, and hopefully the next 10 years will be even faster.
Yeah. I have a question for you guys. Since you are one of the first players in the digital economy in Indonesia, I think it was about like 10 years ago for William, and probably like 8 to 9 years ago, right? For
7 years.
7 years for Ferry. How do you see the challenges from the first time you started the company? What was the toughest challenges, and how do you see the challenges, like changed or shifted through this period of time?
Yeah, so in the early days, so when we started in 2012, which is already 3 years later than Tokopedia, it was still very early. So one of the first challenges is to convince a lot of people that this is for real, right? Not only the investors, but also the talents, the potential business partners that we are doing something that is real and we can help them, right? And if you look at the world in Indonesia 7 years ago, it was probably not as obvious actually for a lot of people to believe in this thing, right? Because there was not many examples. But I think, yeah, we managed to do it, and a lot of stakeholders finally were convinced, and then of course when everything was aligned, then magic happens.
So I think the slide works now. Yeah, let's look at it slightly deeper. 1 month after we give you money, you immediately spend on ads.
Thank you.
Immediately. Yeah. And actually, I want to bring to this slide.
$1,200 US.
Yeah. Okay, this one is the invoice paid. Let's skip this. Items sold. I still remember every weekend you told us that you cannot, you couldn't go out, right? Because you have to do the bank transfer verification.
Yeah, we do it manually.
Manually, right? In the early days of Tokopedia. So this is the number of items sold, about 2,000 plus in the first 8 months. This is the GMV.
We don't even know what is the GMV at that time,
Yeah,
so it's just called
no idea,
money circulation. Right? So
yeah.
it's a broken English version of GMV.
Yeah. So I think this is what important I want to show, that you have about 27,000 users. And now how many users you have?
Yeah, so now MAU is more than 90 million, right? So
90 million? Anyway, William haven't seen this deck yet. So this conversation actually is like, is promptu, yeah. And what actually you think you did right from the humble beginning, less than 30,000 users, to what you are today? What do you think the key things? Only 1 or 2 things, probably, yeah, for the young audience.
I would say the people. I think always invest on the people with the right team, the right culture, the right mission. Yeah, since day one and today, I think Tokopedia is driven by the people.
Okay, let's go through the slide a bit more. So the number of merchants that you have, about 3,000 in the first 8 months. The product, the SKU, 50,000.
Yeah, now we have 6.4 million merchants, 200 million plus products. Yeah, 10 years.
This is the page view. So we still compare with Plaza and Toko Bagus. We have been monitoring them very closely. Longest time on site. So you have been focused a lot into the user to make sure that you serve them right, to make sure that they stay longer in your...
Yeah, because that time, I think Svensos is only, that time we are raising 250,000 US dollar, and then we need to compete with eBay, we need to compete with eventually Naspers. 250,000, you cannot fight dollars to dollars, so you really need to fight for the quality. But don't you think it's because
we give you less money, that's why you think hard and make sure that the users stay in your side?
Yeah, the underdog spirit, yeah.
Okay, so for all the startups, listen to this, yeah. Don't raise too much money, because then you can think harder like William. Should we go into this?
We shouldn't dip more than this. It's very embarrassing.
Okay. Let's skip this and move to Tokopedia, Traveloka. Yeah. Ferry also didn't know that we are going to do this. Yeah. So meanwhile, while we are waiting, yeah.
Probably, I have a question for William. I think you had an interview with CNA before. You were talking about internet is a tool that enables the underdogs, to give them equal opportunity to go to the top. Now that you guys are on the top, right? Like what do you do to keep that position? Like compared to like all the underdogs now, because the situation I think is reversed now?
Yeah, I think to your first question, I think is related with this, right? So the challenge is continuously evolve. Some things getting easier, some things getting harder over time. So early days, you don't have capital. It's very tough for you to raise capital. It's very tough for you to even hire people and so on. Now you have capital on your banks. You can hire anyone that basically easier to hire people. But the challenge is evolve. It's now become how to make sure that the alignment happening. Tokopedia now have 5,000 people. Early days when you only have like 20, 30 people, make alignment is a very considered is much easier, right? So I think now if like you see all the tech company, even though having 80% market share, like Yahoo used to be BlackBerry Messenger, Friendster, doesn't mean anything. If like you don't continuously evolve, the moment that you be irrelevant, it's very quick. From the 80% market share, you can lose the whole market share. So how to continuously be that underdog is, I think, the big challenge now, right? How to make sure that you continuously evolve is a big challenge. If you see all these tech company like Alibaba, Amazon, Rakuten, eBay, some of the company doing very well on evolution strategy. If you see Amazon today, it's very different with Amazon 3 years ago. Alibaba today is very different with Alibaba 3 years ago. But some other tech company today versus 3 years ago is pretty much the same. So that kind of hunger, I think Steve Jobs want to say that, stay hunger, stay foolish. How you continuously be hunger, how you continuously fight as this is your, I think Amazon have these terms, right? It's always the day one or day zero mentality because day two is the doomsday. I think that sounds simple, but when you are having the capital, you're having the resources, sometimes you are no longer have that fighting spirit. So I think what is the word? Complacent. Being complacent is the biggest challenge.
I see. So we look at Ferry executive summary. I never realized that actually he really did send this. Like what I said, we already made investment. They realized, oh, you got business plan.
I did not have a consulting background, so that was the best that I can do at that
Yeah.
point.
So my first question, Ferry, do you really execute your plan? Is it you execute it according to what you plan?
Definitely not, actually. It was, I think within a few months, we knew we were completely wrong on so many of our assumptions, right? Because we came from, we had spent so many years in the US, so when we built our first plan, I think many of the assumptions were unintentionally kind of US based or driven, and only when we actually execute it that we know that what to actually do.
And how do you know that your plan actually is not according to your assumption? I mean, what triggered you? Because there's no comparable during that time. It's like you're on your own, right, to analyze
I guess we just observe everything, right? We observe the customers, we observe the competitors, we observe and talk to partners, and just continuously learn all these feedbacks and signals, right? There are so many signals that you can read, and you don't have to rely on like an official or formal kind of feedback, but there's opportunity to learn from many different things.
And I remember when Ferry is coming back to Indonesia, at first Traveloka is a meta search, right? So you plan to build a meta search, but it's transformed very quickly to become OTA.
Exactly. So our first model was meta search. We wanted it to be meta search because we thought that it was going to be more efficient, right? You don't need to build you don't need to handle transactions. You don't need to have customer service. But I think within a short few months, we knew that we had to handle pretty much everything.
So you go into full service.
Correct.
Because you thought that the infrastructure in Indonesia couldn't cater for the meta search.
Yeah, and then we did a benchmark on our competitors, and we thought that they were not doing such a good job anyway.
I see.
Right, so it's still very early.
I see. And can we zoom into one particular point about salary? Because Ferry actually did request for a certain salary. It's point number 10 or 11, I can't remember. The next page. Go down further. Yeah, this one, 9, 10, 16. founders will be paid 1.5 million rupiah. This is the UMR, the minimum wages for factory worker. Why you want to pay yourself such a low salary? You're from Silicon Valley, come back to Indonesia, you should enjoy your life, right?
Yeah, I guess it's just a reflection of how we look at things. So on one hand, I think we were very optimistic about the future and whatnot, but on the other hand, we also have tried and true values, and one of them is to delay gratification and to just dedicate everything for the company, and that includes resource, right? And I think it's also a slippery slope, right? I think if the founders do not set the right tone for the company,
this is very important.
then
The founder must set the right tone with low salary.
Yeah. Not well. I don't know how. I think I could live okay with 1.5 million 7 years ago. Maybe that's inflation, right? But otherwise, it is true, right? It started with the founder, and every single thing that you do gets imitated and amplified. Right.
To other
good and
staff,
bad.
to the organization.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to show the commitment, maybe?
Correct.
That's what you're trying to do?
Correct,
Yeah.
yes.
And I believe in Tokopedia also, right? I don't think we see big number those days. Yeah. If you don't mind, I still remember that when we are about to raise a big round, you SMS me and say, my roof is leaking. Yeah. Yeah. You want to tell a bit about that?
Yeah, so I still live in a home with a rent of $1,200 US a year, and that is after we raise $100 million US, and that is after I am planned for my wedding. So my wife is actually stay at that leaking home for a couple of a year. But that's so true love, right? So
Yeah, it's true love. Yeah. So probably going forward, I try to, we don't talk too much about the economic, we don't talk too much about your plan, just an advice for the budding entrepreneurs. What do you think you could advise them in these today's circumstances when there's a lot of money, there is a lot of competition, the ecosystem has been matured, I think. What will be your advice to the young entrepreneur? Maybe from Ferry?
Yeah, probably the same advice I will give. I always give. So definitely dream like you will live forever, but execute like you're gonna die tomorrow, right? So definitely be ambitious, but be pragmatic on how you will get there.
yeah, with that dream theme, then I would say always dream with your eyes open, meaning that be consistent. What you dream, you need to think about it. You need to build a plan of it. You need to be able to speak about it, inspire your team, and drive the people to go to that plan. And then you just need to execute it. But to do it consistently is a very, very difficult actually.
So consistent. Yeah. I think that's all for this session. And we have a special gift to these two CEOs. Yeah. This gift has been inspired only like, we think about it about 3 days ago. And we are lucky that in Indonesia we have a lot of craftsmen. So actually we craft a unicorn, baby unicorn, a wooden baby unicorn. Is it ready?
Please give a big round of applause.
Traveloka kasih si Willson, And this is Tokopedia.
So before we give it to them, there's a philosophy behind it. Okay? So this is not a unicorn actually. This is, we assume baby unicorn, newly born. If you can see, it's newly born. And there is a horn, but we are not sure yet whether it's a horn or tumor. It just, there's something there. Yeah. The reasons why we give them this special baby unicorn, because if we give them adult unicorn, a normal unicorn, any other VC can give you adult unicorn. They just can buy into your cap table. But to find a baby unicorn from day one, that's another luck, right? Yeah. And what important, we are very lucky. What important, there's a tattoo of EV here. on the leg. It means that you have to remember us, because if you remove one of the organ, you will be dysfunction. If you remove us from your cap table, you will be dysfunction. So, Batara, please, this is for you too. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen,
Thank
please
you so
take a
much.
picture
Kita foto
together
dulu ya.
first.
Jun. Thank you.
Thank
and
you
by
so
the way,
much.
by the way, we have crafted a lot of baby unicorn for a lot of people in this room. You have to prove yourself. Then the next decade you will get it.
Okay, thank you so much.